righty. Let's see. Welcome back, everybody. Kathy Arbor here. Just making sure my camera's good. And it's another Watercolor Tuesday. Yeah, looks pretty good. All righty. So last week, we did this Baltimore Oriole, and it was from my backyard. So this Oriole likes to eat oranges. Orioles do that. So we did that with a watercolor and some colored pencil. And then I was playing with this in my spare time, kind of thinking of things that July kind of brings into mind. And I live by the Lake Huron, so we have a Lighthouse Miramichi, or not Miramichi, Chantry Island Lighthouse. And so that when I started looking at it, that could have been a J. So I flipped it. I went on my computer and I flipped it so we could paint it for July. So that's our letter J. So I thought that was pretty good because we didn't do one last week. And last Thursday, I painted this little scene, and there is a traceable for all members that you can go on your member site, and you will find it there in Patreon or in the YouTube membership. And it's for all levels. There's 3 levels. And if you're interested in that, you can check it out by looking down below in the description, and there'll be some links for you there. Or if you see the join button down below the screen, you can press on that and it'll give you all the information also. And this was just done on scrapbook paper. I believe in painting on paper, especially when you're just learning. It's less stress because it's just paper. It's not a canvas. And I'm not going to hang everything I do. I do this because I enjoy painting. And then I just put them in a book. So today I thought we would do this. So this is watercolor paper, and I just scanned it, put it in my program, flipped it, and then just get this straight for you. And then I just use my rear feed paper on my Epson, and I printed it out on the watercolor paper. You'll have to see if your printers can do that. Just save some time. I have an Epson, so the ink is really pretty good as far as not smearing or moving when you're using watercolor. So I'm not sure what kind of ink you guys have, but oh, this darn tape is horrible on this. Use your tapes, people, because if you collect them, like so many of us do, they go bad, and then they're impossible to get off your roll. And I know some people say, oh, you just have to use your heat gun. I've tried that. It doesn't work. So use up your stash before it goes bad on you. And that's pretty well anything. I don't know about you, but that drives me crazy when tape doesn't come off the roll properly. And I've got a bunch of it. So that was the thing to have. So we got suckered into buying all kinds of it because everybody said we had to have it. I like using it in my daily journaling, but yeah. Hey, Kathleen. I will have this print for you in the membership if you are interested. I just haven't downloaded it yet. As soon as we're done here, I will go and put it in the memberships if you're interested in doing it. So on Chantry Island, that's off the shores of Southampton in Ontario, Canada. It's a little island, and there's this big old lighthouse, and it's actually a bird sanctuary too because nobody lives on there. So there's lots of egrets and different types of seagulls, and there's all kinds of different birds there. So I thought it'd be fun to just do something kind of beachy, but a little bit on the illustrative side. So this is the letter J. So it's a lighthouse, some rocks, and the water splashing up off of the rock. And you could use this. You could scale it down, use it in your journals, or use it as a sticker. You could make stickers out of them, whatever you want to do. So I have my watercolor palette here. I'll just bring this over a little bit so you guys can see the whole thing. I think that'll do. I have my water off to the side. And that way we can, I might zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to be using a fairly small brush today. So this is a Silver Black Velvet number 4. These have really nice tips. And if you're going to be doing watercolor, especially with smaller illustrative pieces, you're going to want something with a fairly small tip, just so that you can get into small areas. And I tend to do both wet into wet and wet into dry painting. Depends if I want a lot of blending or if I want something very detailed. So if you want to blend things, wet into wet is great. And if you want a very specific detail put in, then wet it onto dry paper is best. All right, so the lighthouse that we have does not have stripes on it, but I like stripes on a lighthouse. You can make it whatever color you want. So I'm going to make mine black and white, probably, and the ocean or the lake, so greenish blues colors I'll be using. Let's see, let's do the water first. So this is splashing up. So all this area in here, these little funny dots in the water part that are kind of jagged looking, that's the white foam or the splash. When it comes up, it's white. And also in here, there's some areas here, and then there's also rock in here. So we're going to leave those areas white. So I'm going to wet my areas that I'm going to paint with some water. So wet into wet this will be. And I'm going to leave those white areas dry. So we're not going to be painting those areas. Now you can use Frisket or a masking fluid if you want to just put a big wash on and not have to worry about the white areas. When doing that, though, you have to make sure that it is dry before you put your watercolor on, or it won't work. And also, do not use a heat gun when you have masking fluid on. So if you put a heat gun to that masking fluid to dry it or dry the paint after it's on, it will bake that masking fluid into your paper and you'll never get it off. Okay. So there's a bit there. Just make sure you have enough on. I'm going to do it right up to the rocks here. Just making sure I don't go in the white areas. So there's the white areas here. I want all of this colored. And the paint will only go where your wet areas are. So let's see. There. Make sure you have enough. You want it evenly wet. So you kind of just have to tilt your head a little bit to see where the paper is wet. It'll show, be a little glistened. Just make sure it's all looking the same though, because when you first put this water on a dry piece of paper, it soaks in pretty quick. So you may need to go over certain areas a little bit more. Just make sure it's all the same consistency. It's just clean water. So that should do it. And then I'm just going to take, I have some cobalt teal here and some cobalt blue. You can just dip some of that in those areas, and we'll add different hues of this. So we'll add a little more with green, a little bit more blue. Doesn't have to be even, especially when it's all turned up and wild. Doesn't always look nice and even. Phthalo green is also a good one. Put a little bit of that in there. It's a little blue with it. Usually that's more of a deep watercolor. So let's put some of that in here. Hey, Cindy. Just play with it. Now you can play with your watercolor that you put down for a little while, but as soon as it starts to dry, leave it alone. Because if you play with it, you'll get blooms. Now, in some instances, blooms can work for you. So I probably wouldn't mind a bloom in the water because they would probably look like foam. Some people don't like blooms, but it's fun to play with them just to see how they would look. Okay, so I'm going to let that area. Hey, Susan. Now this is kind of waves right here. And it'll be a little calmer. Now, depending on how detailed you want to get, you can look up what water looks like in a wave, because there is a difference. Tends to be a little bit darker on the bottom part of the wave than the top, but then you got to also consider there's a reflection from the sky that you'll be seeing. This is kind of more or less illustrative, and we can add pen work to this too. Now I'm going to add a little bit of color to this because I have a white background, and I'm not going to do the background in any other color. So I'm just going to take that same color, but a lot of water in it. Maybe a little bit of green. Sometimes your water can be more on the green side, but I want it fairly watered down. And I'm going to kind of just throw it on. I might even put a little bit of gray in there. But I want it different than what the color of the water, this part. A little different. Some of it can be white though. So this would be part of the water in here. I'm just putting a little bit color, just a smidge. All right. Well, this here is also part of a wave. So I'm going to take some more of that, and there's lines, and that's just to represent how the wave is moving. So it's more of an illustrative thing. And I'm gonna let that dry. I know it's hard, but try and let things dry. And don't have a big puddle. If you have puddles, soak them up a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. So I can't paint anything that would touch that, because it'll just bleed in with the color you're using. So I could probably do the Lighthouse Area now. So I'm going to do that in black and white, or grays, I guess. So I have a gray already made up here, and that's easy to do. It's just ultramarine blue, the darkest you can get is best. You could use Payne's gray too, and burnt umber with it, and that'll give you a fairly nice looking black. Now I don't want, these are the rocks in here, so I want this area to be white, then black. So white, black, white, black, and then probably black up here. So I'm just gonna, this is kind of dirty water, but that's okay. It's gonna be black anyways. And you're seeing the inside thickness of the wall here in the window. So that'll be a little different color. So I'm just going to take some of that black, and have to decide, where do I want my light source coming from? Because we'll have to put a highlight and a shadow in. Hey, Pam. So this one here, we can more water. Some of that black again. So it's more or less a gray color right now. So I can go back in and darken areas. And I could probably take out, if I wanted some of the area lighter too. So I'm using a watercolor paper today. Let's see, that'll be the rail. This is the light part in here. And I think I'm going to have this part black also. So this is wet into wet that I'm doing. So I wet the area first, and then I put the color in. And it's more or less just dabbing. All right, and let's mix a little of the Payne's Gray in with that. I want a fairly thick consistency. Of black. So I want the maybe a better weight. Let's dry that. So, because if I were to take that dark black, try to do it alongside of this that I just painted, it would probably bleed into it. All right, now it's fairly hot. Let's cool that down a little bit first, so we don't end up baking our paint on. Almost dry, or cooled. All right, so let's take a little bit of that dark, and we can paint the inside of the windows. This is when a very pointy brush is good. Or you could take a more of a detailed, like a #1 or something. That would work too. Or if you have a watercolor marker, like the Zig clean brush markers, they're great. They have a really nice point on their bristles. Yeah. And we could do some of the rock here. Now we could take various shades of this black. This is all dry, so I'm not too worried about it bleeding into the other areas now. So maybe this area was the darkest. So the sun, maybe the sun is behind it. So the rocks would be darker on the edges. Let's see. Maybe this is a rock here. Kind of just have to play with it. And you take a lighter color. Do the top. Could leave some white if you want, kind of as a sparkle. Maybe well, they would be wet, but you don't have to put it all in. Kind of show that it's, we can use a marker too in some of this. So if the sun is behind it, that means the center area of this, because it's rounded, would be the darkest. So we can make a darker area. Same with this here. So there would be probably, this is kind of a bell shape. I'm guessing it would be stone or brick. I'm just going to wet along the edge, clean water, and let it blend a little bit while it's wet. That way you get a softer edge. And in here, these thicknesses of the window, I'm going to just make those a little bit lighter. Not much, but a little bit. So I'm just using the paint that's around it. And I'm going to make the inside really dark. This one would be little darker because it's on the white background instead. And this here is the standing area, I guess you could say. So it would be a little bit different color. I'm going to lighten the sides just a bit. Just put your towel down on it. Take some of the paint up while it's wet. And this could be a little bit on the lighter grayish side in here. Same with here. So I'm just going to basically take from below and above, so just a bit of gray to give it a bit of a shadow. Not much though. That a bit more. I think this here, because it's sticking out, there would be a shadow underneath. So let's put a little bit more of a shadow in there, indicating that. All right, so let's make a little bit more of that color. So this time I'm using Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber. You kind of have to play with it back and forth till you get the color you want. Okay, so let's do, we have these window areas here, the grills of the window. That. Okay, so now we can play with this a little bit more if you want. So the color, there is shadows in your water. So I'm going to put a little bit more color down in here where it would be deep. And then I'm just going to use a wet brush and go around the area that you just put on, just so that it bleeds into it. Okay. And let's put some in here where the water would be just a bit deeper. Show those the waves when they come up. A little bit of a difference in color there. And a little bit of water beside it. Not much, just a bit, just so that it softens the edge a little. This is part of a wave up here. You can take a little bit of that off if you want. Just wet it. Now, depending on your paint will depend on how much it will lift. Some paints are more pigmented than others, so it's a good idea to test your paints out, see what stains and what doesn't. what moves more than others. That. And then maybe a little bit up here, I think. Right in here. Wet the area. Okay, let's dry that now. Bring in a little bit. All right, so I've got an eraser here. Let's see if we can take some of this. Might not. Sometimes, depending on the ink, you can erase some of it. No, this one's gonna pretty much stay. Well, that's okay. Be more illustrative. So let's get our markers out, or pens. So I have a microperm here. You can get different widths. If you're not going to be putting any more color on, you can also just use a nice pen. I like using these. These are the Pilot G-Tech-C4s. They have a really nice point. Three. I like using threes, I think, the most. It's just the right width. So then I can just use my pen, do a little bit of line work. And you'll learn as you go if how to do your line work. I tend to concentrate lines where the shadows would be. And I don't necessarily outline everything. I just put a few marks in. So these windows here can have actually a lot of dark in them. Cross hatch if you want. And I think a little bit along the dark areas here. I'm going to put a line in there. You could also put, maybe they have bricks. You could put brick in, depending on how it's made. And the rocks, I like putting lines down. Usually stick to one direction though. Remember, we have a bunch of waves crashing on the shore here, so you might have a few rocks showing here and there, but not a whole lot because the water would be covering it. Then we can also take a colored pen. So I have a blue here, and we can make our lines for the waves in the blue or green, whatever you have. You could do it in the black too. Oh, this one's running out. Yeah, that one ran out. Let's see, do I have another blue? There's one. Yep, that's a one. Microns work the best, I find, or your mechanical pencils. So here you'd have a little bit of, it just shows where the line, how the wave comes up. Just artistic license. Just where the waves would be shooting up. Then we have probably in the bottom parts of the wave here, I'm going to just put a little bit of this color in here. Here and there. More or less to emphasize the maybe shadow parts. Again, this is just illustrative. It's not a rendition of a photograph, say. Just something suggestive. You could just follow the green lines if you wanted to. I've left white areas, so you could actually just doodle around those green areas that are painted. It gives you a little bit more of a complex drawing. Kind of looks cool. And you could go in with gouache even if you wanted to, and work on splashes. Not necessarily following exactly the lines, but kind of. I'm not worried if it's not, though. Like that. Hey, Devin. You fell asleep. You must have needed it, Dot. That's okay. Okay, so being that it's a light, we could just put a bit of soft yellow, maybe. And just like that, just a suggestion of that it's light. Nothing crazy. You were at Costco. Oh, was it crazy? Costco is always nuts when I go to it. I don't have one close to me anymore, but when it was, it was crazy. I think it is the heat. We are unaccustomed to heat. Oh, are you still getting the heat, Dot? Wow. It's a cool day here today, which I don't mind. But we're supposed to get some heat starting this coming weekend. So that won't be good. I don't like heat. It actually wasn't too bad because I went pee before lunchtime. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I suppose that does make a difference. All right, so let's see. We could make... Oh, that's 2. Let's see, what's this one? It's a 5. What's this? 3, I think. Might have a little bit of a shadow coming out from these panes of the window. Let's put those in. You don't have to, but I kind of like doing that. As it stands. Oh, they retired in PEI. Nice place. Some rock. Just going around some of these areas just to make it a little more interesting. I always think of Jean when I think of PEI. Miss Jean. Hope she's doing well. Could put some stone, or a lot of times they're very smooth looking. Let's see. Except in PEI, the rocks would be red. Yeah. This is more in our area. We have off of Southampton, Ontario. On Lake Huron, there's a little island called Chantry Island. It's got a, not with the stripes, but I put the stripes in. So that can be July. I think that would work. So that will be our July number, what do you call it? Letter for J. I'm thinking, oh, I might want to make this a little bit thicker and more noticeable. As a J. This is what I do, how I play. I change things as I go. I've been to PEI Island. I have been to Peely. Oh, have you? Ah, yes, Peely Island. Yeah. I did a stained glass window for Bird Studies Canada for Peely Island. Beautiful area. I think this needs to be a little bit darker in this area here a little bit. Just to show that there's dimension. Same within here. Just gives a little bit more interest to it. You can do yours whatever your way you want. Some people like it looking very soft. You could do a few of them and experiment. So there is a downloadable for this that you can find on the membership page after I'm done. I haven't got it up there yet, but I will put it on after I'm done. Hi, Sophia. All right, so just heat the tape so I can take it off. There. So we can put a little white on if you want. Let's see, what's the best pen? Here's one of these Signos. Maybe you'd have a little bit of, is it going to work? I think the trick with those are not to press hard. You could put some, don't know if they're going to show or not, a little bit of highlights here and there. You don't have to, but that's not going to show enough. Shake this Posca one up. Yep. Just put a little bit of this in here and there. Break up some of that color. There's some dots here and there. They're not going to show on the white, of course, but you could put them kind of on the paper a little bit where the water is. Show. Give a little bit of interest. There. And dry it. And that should be dry. And today is the 12th. So 7, 12, 22. Wow. Time is flying. So there's our little J for July. Now I could, if you could make this a thicker outline here just so that you see that. Maybe I'll do that. You see the J a little more so you know what it is. Do I have a brush pen? Let me see. Light. Yep, there they are. There's black. So right in here. I will try anything. This is just in your notebook or your sketchbook or your journal. This is when you play. So don't be scared to try stuff. There. I think that looks good. That's those Clean Color Real Brush by Zig. Awesome pens. Very, very beautiful tips on them. The letter J. So now I could put that in my book. Now, if I wanted to, I could actually, well, not really. I was going to say I could cut it out, but then I would have to cut off. There's a lot of J's in the months, in the year, isn't there? See, originally I was just playing around, and then I thought, hey, wait a minute, if I reverse it, voila. So I could put that in there, or let's see, that was in June. Yeah, we'll put it here. So I can either staple it in, glue it in. I could leave that just to see and write some notes about it. And then just glue this in on one side. Many ways of playing with the book. I like putting different things in. Like here I put the string in here. So I just sewed it. See? Paper. That was from a calendar. I still haven't finished that. Oh, I did this. This is a little scene from my garden. So I'll probably finish that one day. The hydrangea. And that was the Baltimore Oriole that sits and eats my oranges. All right, so I guess that's it, guys. Unless you have anything, any suggestions you'd like to see, or you like the pink lemonade. I think there's a traceable for that one, Devin, if I'm remembering correctly. So what have you guys been doing? Having fun? That's what we did last week. And there was a traceable for that. Sophia's, I have a, wait a minute. Have you done tutorials with those pens? No, I haven't. I don't think. I've used them a little bit in things, but not a whole painting with them, because you can't do wet and wet with them. I'll show you. I'll get a piece of paper. Watercolor paper. Okay. So when you're working with these I got, like, you can get, I don't know how many colors. This was the full set. I think there was like 80 or something like that. And I've had these for years. They never run dry on me. They have fantastic color. But the only thing, if I put some water on here, and let's do blue. Let's see. So they're great. That's off of the water, okay? Now they're not streaky, but as soon as you hit water, they'll stop working. They get lighter and lighter, and then eventually they don't do anything anymore because they soak the water up. So see how the nib has gone white? So you can't do wet into wet with them in large amounts. And then you don't really want to do mixes because then you wreck the color you're using. Now, I suppose you could use a palette. Let's see. Just wipe some of this off. So say I wanted to do, let's see, yellow and blue together to get a green. So here's some yellow. Now you can do this, and here's a blue. But then what do? You don't want to take it with this because you're going to get a different color that you put down. So there's no advantage of having these to use in this way as far as making another color. So if you're going to get these, you're going to want it the whole set because you don't want to have to try and mix colors of your own because then you're using a brush. So yeah, you can mix them, but what's the point in having these? You may as well just use your palette. Are they good? Yes, they are very good for brush lettering. I am not a brush letterer. What is it? Light on the upstroke and heavy on the down, I believe. So yeah, because they have a beautiful point. Hazy. They have a beautiful point, but I'm not good at it. I'd have to practice. Not good at it. See, down. So heavy, light, heavy, light, heavy. So light and heavy, light and heavy, light. I'm not, it's because they do have a beautiful point, but anyone that like Dee, she could do this. She just does it very easily. Bleh, can't talk today. But I like them for detail when I'm doing watercolors like veins and flowers. So because they have such a beautiful point on them. So if I were to use it for a flower petal or a leaf, let's say a leaf. So a nice green leaf. So say we have this leaf that we've done in watercolor. Now you're going to have to wait for it to dry, because remember what I said, you can use it to a point, but it will suck up this color eventually. Now can you take it and smear it? Not a whole lot, no. I just find that they're harder to use in the typical way of watercolor. So that's why I just basically use them for detail. And you don't want to contaminate them either. See, now it's a different color. So wait till your paints are fully dry. Now they'd be good for Zentangling if you want to do Zentangling, but or detail, grasses, veins and flowers, or that type of thing. Yeah, you could do that, Safia. They will move. Soften up. But see, you get a different color coming out. It depends on the colors that they've used to make that color. But that's why I have them. But, you know, they're I'm not sure what these are quite a few years old, so I'm not sure how much they are nowadays. You'd have to take a look, see if it's worth your while. Oh yeah, they're great for grasses. You're welcome, Safia. I like playing with stuff like this, but I'm also very frugal. Ask anyone that knows me. I'm very, very frugal. So if I have some product here that will do the same thing as whatever products are coming out from whoever, I will make them first. I won't go out and buy that thing or paint or medium or whatever it is if I can make it myself. I'm just that way. Maybe they would work well on Bristol. Yeah, Bristol paper would be nice because it's smooth. This has got tooth and it soaks water up. They move and blend on some sorts of super smooth paper, but it varies. Yeah. Do you use them a lot, Safia, for painting? Say with watercolor pencils. I just don't see the need for them for myself. I just don't see why you would want to color something and then add water. I guess it would depend on your technique, because I was on a sort of arting hiatus with the boys around for some. Yeah, back to into things. Yeah. I just find my watercolor and gouache to be the only thing I really need. And if I want to get into fine details, then that's when I use these. Or if I have a very fine watercolor brush, a very, very fine one, then I'll use that. But I just haven't, for myself, I work differently than maybe you do. So maybe you like that type of watercolor with the pencils. I just don't see the advantage of it myself. I don't want to scrub stuff to get the color to move. I like smooth blends, and I find watercolor pencils don't give you that. Now, I suppose there are certain times that maybe you want a sharp line, but you want it softened on the edges a little bit, where the marker would do that. But you can there's so many ways of doing stuff like that, that you don't need. Let's see. Like, you could make a line by bruising your paper. I'll show you. And then you go over your area with paint. And wherever you bruised, the paint will go down into it. So you have that fine line. Depending on, how fine you could use a needle to do this, depending on how fine of a line you want. So again, I've already done what I wanted by bruising the paper. So if a lot of people can use this for hair, different things. Hey, Judy. So you can bruise the paper and use it that way. You could also, again, use Frisket or a resist of some sort, wax. I've seen people use white grease pencil. So it all depends on your style of painting. You could also scratch. Let's see, do I have it here? Yep. So if you wanted to have a highlight, scratch it in. I've seen that done before. Depends on, that's a really cool idea when you're doing rocks and stuff. So you can scratch it in. Or again, the waves, what we just did. So you could actually come in here and scratch some of this off to make a highlight. Um, I think she's probably working. So yeah, all kinds of stuff. You can do this with grasses too, or there's highlights, or just go back in with some more paint. Let's put some black with this. Make it dark green. Maybe you'd have see? Then you get even more colors, and you could get darker and darker and then take out some. So there's many little tricks that you can do. You just have to play a little bit with your watercolor to see what you can do. Get into salt, and there's different size salt gives you different types of cauliflowers, they call them. So, any other questions? But I like using colored pencil too on my stuff, gouache. You could use also pastels to rub into. Sometimes you don't like the grainy texture, and you can use a pastel to get into the or to leave a pattern. Thanks, Judy. It's the letter J for July. Oh, thanks. Is there any suggestions for? Do you guys still want me to do drawing stuff? And what do you want to learn to draw? While you're here, let me know. I like to get things figured out ahead of time. Do you want to learn just the basics, just simple little things, or contour drawing? Drawing and perspective. You like perspective? Now we could do some perspective drawing, like buildings, or are you talking about foreshortening, that type of thing? Or landscape perspective, like, oh, Coco's barking. I love perspective, yes, buildings. Yeah. Have any of you guys seen on Instagram that artist that uses the string and the tack for perspective? That is so awesome. I'll have to show that one time. It's very easy and it's a great tool. Have you seen it? It's so simple and yet effective how he uses it. It's like, why didn't I think of that? Okay, well, I'll get into some perspective if you want. Could start off simple. Maybe, I don't know, birdhouses or something. Have not seen that. You haven't? I'll find it, and next week I'll show you it. I think I can share my screen. It's amazing, and it's so simple. All right. Well, I'll let you guys go then, and we'll see you on Thursday. I'm not sure what I'm going to do Thursday. It's either going to be jelly printing with plants or mixed media painting of some sort. You're welcome. Oh, Xandra, how did you like that paper? Have you finished it? Or the vellum, I should say. And if anyone is wondering, Xandra has a channel, and so does Devin. So just click on their names and check their channels out. Just waiting to see if she might have left already. I love jelly printing with plants. Do you? Not yet. I've just got Jane's to. Oh, you just got Jane's? And you like it? No, Jane's has just come in. Oh, I'm really interested to see what the difference is. Yeah, it's architecture drawing vellum. I should see if there's a label in the roll. Just hold on. You have the roll out here, I think. Here. Okay. R35-2 catalog number. See, I have another roll I haven't even touched. I used it in my stained glass as using it for patterns. When I made patterns. Let's see. I have something on the inside here. Let's see if it's labeled at all. This stuff has to be quite old. Wrapped in craft paper, but the back of the craft paper is black. Interesting. All right, let's see. Well, there's nothing in the inside of the tubes. Ah, that sucks. But see, got a huge roll of it. I have no idea. There's nothing else on the paper. See, I got it from a friend of mine that is an architect years and years ago. And she worked for Babcock and Wilcock. And they stopped using it. And that's the only thing that was on it. So 36-inch by 20, I don't know what that would be, yards or feet. So let's say there. Something underneath here. What's it say? I can't read it. Oh well. All right, well, I'll let you guys go then, and I hope you have a fantastic evening. Get your sketchbook out, do some sketching, maybe a little watercolor. Just enjoy your time in creating. Just enjoy yourself. Relax. That's why I do it. It's a de-stressor. You're welcome. So we'll see you all on Thursday. Bye for now, everyone.